Welcome to the Dr. Seraphine Show. I'm Dr. Pamela Seraphine, and this is where high-stakes leadership is decoded through neuroscience. For this first episode, I'm going to be addressing the evolution of excellence, and more specifically, what is required when the path you were on is disrupted to the point that you can no longer continue to pursue it. It is swiped from you, off the table. Now, this disruption could affect your career, the mission you serve. It could be a life disruption like a divorce or loss of a loved one, or an illness, or even a life-changing injury. But the point is, it's so profound that you were pursuing it with excellence and it has been swiped from you, no longer on the table. So the question is, what does it take from a brain-based perspective to adapt without lowering your standard for excellence? That's what I'm going to be addressing today, so let's get at it. Now, this episode builds off of my own lived experience. Of course, I have been through many major disruptions in my time, but it also builds on a powerful conversation I had on the Vets and Badges podcast. And that's with host Robert Orsenzio, and the guest was Captain Ben Harrow. Now, I'm going to link the interview in the show notes, so you've got to take a listen because Ben shares his incredible story of having to survive this catastrophic, life-changing combat injury, and then what he did to continue to pursue his passion for excellence. It's an incredible story. You've got to check it out. But there's more to his story than meets the eye. And that's really gave me the idea of starting this podcast, because when I'm interviewing somebody, there isn't enough time for me to really dig in to the neuroscience side or give you any frameworks because I'm interviewing the guest, right? But I want to step back now and give you the framework of what I saw through Ben's story. Because if you just listen to his story without having the neuroscience background, you would chalk it up to him having incredible amount of mental toughness. Now, I'm all for mental toughness, don't get me wrong. And is Ben mentally tough? Yes, he's a Green Beret. He's absolutely mentally tough. He's maxed it out. However, if your takeaway from a story like that, and many others like that, is that he's mentally tough and that's how he continued, that's how he adapted and went on to achieve such incredibly great, amazing things, then you're doing him a disservice and you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's so much more to it than mental toughness. Now, if you're in my orbit, you're already mentally tough, because I seldom attract people into my work that aren't already there. You're probably looking for something more advanced. You've done the mental toughness, you're mentally tough, but there's still things that are going sideways. That's what I like to address. Now, I'm going to try to keep these episodes quite short so that you actually have no excuse not to fully listen to them all. Right? The complete episode. And no, I will not be adding bells and whistles to keep your attention. It's just me and you, okay? Because this is very important. It's important because when you listen to Ben's story, what you'll notice is there's always a neurobiological underpinning to somebody's life story, without a doubt. But you'll notice with him is that he has the perfect example of the full circular pattern of what I call the evolution of excellence. That involves 4 stages. It's built, it's tested, it's disrupted, and then adapted. Now that's what I'm going to go through today with you. So as I'm going through this framework, take a listen to how it may apply for your life and the challenges that you're facing. The first stage is built. This is the formation of excellence. This is what happens long before it's ever tested. From a brain-based perspective, This stage is all about self-directed neuroplasticity. Now, it's not passive neuroplasticity and it's not destructive neuroplasticity. Those are different ways to change the brain. And yes, I will be addressing them in other episodes. But for this and this stage in particular, it's self-directed neuroplasticity, which means you are intentionally learning how to train your brain to work to your advantage. Now, when it comes to standards and values, here's the misconception. And boy, is it embedded in today's popular narrative. And that is that you can claim your values and standards as if they are some abstract concept, and they are not. They all have a neurobiological underpinning. So you can't just say, I value this and that, and here's my standard of excellence, and it's the same as the mission I serve in my workplace. We have the same values, same standards. You can't bullshit your brain. You can't pretend you have a high value of excellence unless you do, because your brain needs evidence. I'm talking tangible evidence. And there's a formula for that. So the formula is, first, you need repetition of thoughts, behaviors, and emotional states that create the neural pathways. And then the repetition of decisions that are aligned with those values and standards must be enforced to reinforce those neural pathways. Then over time, it creates your neurology, your neural architecture. So there's a lot of repetition. And then, and only then, down the road, when you have the experience, your brain and your nervous system will then return to those skills, those neural pathways, when it is under complexity or chaos or uncertainty. Standards are very much neurologically built. And if you listen to Ben's story, he had decades of building these structures into his brain. When I hear him talking, I'm just like, wow, he has a lot of time spent focusing on training his brain. Now, he might not have realized that's what was happening, but for Ben, before his life-changing injury, he had spent a very long time in sports, in competition, in high-stakes environments when he was, in special force training and many other high-stakes training that he took long before that injury took place. Over time, he created neuropredictive familiarity with the discomfort of the pursuit of excellence. And that takes time, a tremendous amount of time, and it has nothing to do with just claiming something. It's actually built way in advance. That's important to notice in his story and yours. Now, the second stage is tested, and that is the intensification of excellence. This is the stage where high stakes pressure must be implemented. Now, high stakes and that pressure is incredibly important because you need it, because you need to see how your brain's going to react under those intense conditions. Because when you're under that kind of intensity, it changes the functioning and the structures of your brain. Now, your brain's going to narrow its attention. It's going to prioritize threat detection. It'll put you into survival mode. And then when you're going through that high stakes environments and experiences, it's going to pull you back once again to what has been trained in advance. Now, for Ben, he talks about always wanting to go to the next level and putting himself in environments that were so difficult and around people who pushed him into the next level that he wanted to achieve. He was always climbing, always pursuing excellence at all times. And it really comes through in this story, which is very admirable. Because there are many times he could have just called it quits without a doubt. And he didn't. because he's already neurobiologically trained for excellence. And this training needs to increase over time to expand your capacity to see how much those skills that you had built are in place and how much pressure and intensity you can take. Now, if you're a veteran, if you're law enforcement, if you're military, first responder, healthcare, any high stakes profession, high stakes operator, you've already done this, okay? So I know that you have, but it is the next stage that will kick your ass, because the next stage, stage 3, is disrupted. This is the interruption of excellence. This is the dark rabbit hole from hell that will suffocate your soul if you let it. Now, maybe you haven't even experienced this yet, but you likely will. There's very few can get through life without some major disruption that is, can be very catastrophic in many ways and puts you on a whole different path. Like I said, swipes what you were doing and gives you no other option. So this disruption phase is where people get stuck. And and like I said, you're already mentally tough. It's not like you're not resilient enough to get through the disruption stage. There are likely multiple factors that are involved that you're unaware of. So your pursuit still matters to you, your standards are in place, but the way you express your excellence is no longer available. And that's the soul-crushing reality of what many of us have faced and have faced many times. But it's personalized to your neurobiology. So you cannot compare your life, your experience, whatever you're going through, whatever you may be going through in the future, to Ben's story or to someone else's story. It's completely different. Therefore, different ways of dealing with this massive stage 3 of disruption have to be put in place. From a neuroscience perspective, your brain has to do so much more than cope. And no, you can't brute force your way through this stage. It's impossible. You're just going to suffer. Like, you can fool yourself out all you want, but it's just not going to happen. And unfortunately, you may not even know that it's happening. It will just change who you are, how you see the world. A lot of my work is really based around this stage, probably because I know it so well. But this is what people struggle with the most. So I'm not teaching about how to be a high stakes leader and manage other people. I'm talking about you. What do you do when you're in this third stage, this deep rabbit hole of darkness? That's really a whole lot of what my work is built around. And then the expansion of capacity. So I'm not going back, like I said, to the beginning stage of, you've got to become more resilient. You got to become mentally tough. I'm going to assume you're there. And now we've got to move through the disruptive interruption of that path you were on. If the disruption is profound enough, then your brain has to remap more than just thought processes. It has to remap your identity. It has to remap agency, the meaning you give life. There's so many other factors. And let me emphasize this, it has to remap your body's sensory relationship to your new reality. It is a brain-body problem. Now, I'm going to talk about the soul later, so don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm not saying that the soul is not involved, because it is. But if you have experience as a high-stakes leader, high performer, if you've had years and years of having to deal with chronic threat and having to suppress it as part of your tactical operations, which many people do, very admirable, of course it is. But if you've had that experience, and let alone put on top of that TBI, PTSD, CPTSD, moral injury, all the other things that could happen to you in your lifetime, in your career, you add all that up, and your brain and your body, the sensory input, relationship to reality has been radically altered. That's why I'm like, do not compare yourself to others. For one thing, it's irrelevant. You have a completely different brain, right? This idea that, if somebody else did it, then I can do it. Well, wait a minute. You still have to learn how to maximize and get your brain to work to your advantage. Either way, that's the baseline. From a brain-based perspective, there's actually 8 major areas of the brain that you at least have to know about to be able to address when it comes to reestablishing and sustaining high performance after disruption, or to sustain it, period. And let me tell you, it's more than just your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex. I know you already know what that is, so I don't have to repeat that. I'll leave that for other episodes, but keep in mind, it's complex. Of course it's complex. To get yourself out of stage 3, you're going to need a team. You're going to need multiple professionals likely to help you out, depending how far deep down the rabbit hole you are. Now, Ben had a whole incredible team, but remember in his story, or once you listen to it, he was seeking out the best. That goes aligned with his pursuit of excellence all the time. Didn't matter what the topic was. It is that pursuit. And that's what it takes. You can't be reading the average or listening to the average podcast or thinking that you're average. You're not average. There's no way that you found me. My work is just so advanced in many ways. And I know I'm simplifying it in the first episode, but there's no limit to the amount of episodes I can create on the applied neuroscience and decoding high stakes leadership. It's endless. So I'm trying to bring you into my inner circle here and break this down, because stage 3 will kick your ass at a level you can't imagine. And if you are there, let me assure you, there is a way out. You've got to get to stage 4. Stage 4 is adapted. This is a recalibration of excellence. This is where you got to get to. This is the most fulfilling stage you can possibly be at, because it is the reinvention, the evolved state of being. That's what the evolution of excellence is, an evolved state of being. You have to evolve. There's no other way through it. So from a neuroscience perspective, that means your brain now has some tangible proof and is moving in the direction of retraining the brain and the nervous system to support this new reality. It should have new evidence, new patterns, new identity, new meaning has started to fall in place, and now you are adapted. But you haven't lost your pursuit of excellence. It's still absolutely there. It might look different, the adaptation that you've had to go through, but you never lost the pursuit of excellence. And this is how I can absolutely tell, especially with veterans who are just so elite and exceptional. And then they're suffering, and in that stage 3, the deep suffering, many that I deal with, and they let go of the pursuit because they have to adapt, which makes sense. If you don't have the skills, you don't have the support and resources, it's very hard to get into the adaptive stage, right? Now that's what I'm trying to help you with. So for Ben, his adaptation stage was advocacy and going back to high stakes leadership, and he had a deeper sense of spirituality. You'll hear that at the end of the interview. And for you, it might look totally different, but you can tell, because you will start to flourish and start to thrive again and come alive again, which is another thing I don't see very much of. There's a lot of deadening out there. And your sense of vitality is a sign that you have evolved, right? Your passion for life again has to come back, and it's possible. There's so much hope for you, because now we have, on top of all the other resources, advancement in AI. You're going to have hybrid intelligence opportunities. I'll talk about that in another episode. but is going to help you get through and maximize this stage for you. And once you tap into that, you're going to find you haven't actually even started. Now, you might find that hard to believe because you might have already achieved such great things. But either way, if you're on a new path and you're adapting and you're back to pursuing excellence, it's going to be even better than it ever was. And that's what's possible for you. For Ben, he shows this. He shows mature excellence. Not, do it at all cost excellence, adaptive excellence. That means his brain and his nervous system has been retrained again and adapted to this new way of life for him and a new career and a new mission to serve. So always keep in mind that the evolution of excellence is the evolution of self. With that in mind, I have 2 questions for you. Number 1, at what stage are you at in your evolution of excellence? And the second question is, now that you have this framework, what path is your soul calling you to pursue with excellence right now? To help you out with that, I'm going to give you the framework in the show notes and a reflection guide that you can go through and work on and take a look of how this applies to your life. Always keep in mind, there is no one size fits all. It's never going to be like that. I'm going to try to keep all my episodes based in reality and a lot of hard truths, without a doubt. But still, I'd rather give you the hard truth and the solution than simplifying it to the point where it's not valuable to you anymore. So this is just the starting point, okay? Take a look at the show notes, look at the interview, go through the framework, look at least one reflective question, and start from there. That's it for this episode. If it resonated with you and you're ready to take action, you can learn more about my high performance coaching and my clinical counseling services at my website at drpamelaseraphine.com. My work is grounded in the principles found in my #1 best-selling book, Neuromastery: Unlocking Your Brain's Potential for Lasting Success. This is the Dr. Seraphine Show. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.